It happened to me around the year 1882. I had just settled into a compartment of an empty railway carriage and closed the door, hoping to remain alone. But suddenly it swung open again, and I heard a voice. "Careful, sir, the tracks cross right here, and the step is rather high." Another voice replied, "Don't worry, Laurent, I've got hold of the handrails." A head in a bowler hat appeared in the doorway, followed by two hands gripping the leather and cloth rails. Slowly, they hoisted a heavy torso upward. The legs, landing on the steps, struck with a dull thud, like a cane hitting stone. As the man pulled his body into the compartment, I noticed a limp trouser leg, from which protruded the black tip of a wooden leg. A second one followed, identical. Behind him, another head emerged. "Are you comfortable, sir?" "Yes, my friend. Here are your parcels and crutches." A servant entered the carriage, resembling a retired soldier. In his arms he carried a bundle of packages wrapped in black and yellow paper, neatly tied. One by one, he placed them in the luggage rack above his master's head and said, "Everything's here, sir. 5 items, sweets, a doll, a drum, a rifle, and goose liver pâté. Excellent, my good man. Safe travels, sir." "Thank you, Laurent. Take care." The servant left, closing the door behind him, and I turned to look at my fellow passenger. He was a man of about 35, nearly grey-haired, decorated with a medal, mustached, and quite stout. His corpulence had that unhealthy quality often seen in strong, energetic men whom misfortune has condemned to immobility. He wiped his brow, caught his breath, and, looking me straight in the eye, asked, "Does smoking bother you, sir?" "No, sir." That gaze, that voice, that face, they all seemed familiar. But where? When? Surely I had met him, spoken to him, shaken his hand. It was long ago, so long ago that the memory was lost in the fog where recollections grope blindly, chasing elusive shadows they cannot grasp. He, too, was studying me with a fixed, searching look, like someone trying to remember but unable to reach the answer. These persistent glances unsettled us both, and we looked away. Yet, a few seconds later, obeying the vague but insistent summons of memory, our eyes met again, and I said, "For heaven's sake, sir, instead of stealing glances at one another, let's try to recall where we've met." My companion responded readily, "You're absolutely right, sir." I introduced myself. "My name is Henri Boncler. I work in the judicial service." He hesitated, then spoke with the uncertainty that comes from straining the memory. "Ah yes, of course. I saw you at the Puancells, back then, before the war, 12 years ago." "Indeed, sir. And you were Lieutenant Rivalour?" "Yes. I had even become Captain Rivalier by the time I lost my legs. Both were taken by a single cannonball." We looked at each other again, renewing our acquaintance. I remembered perfectly that handsome, slender young man who led the cotillions with such elegance and enthusiasm that he was nicknamed the Whirlwind. But behind that image, clearly resurfacing in my mind, hovered something elusive, a story I had once heard and forgotten, one of those tales that leave only a faint trace, like a scent caught by a hunting dog where game once passed. Gradually, the fog lifted, and a girl's face emerged before my eyes. Then, like the burst of a rocket, a name rang in my ears, Mademoiselle de Mundel. And everything came back. It was a love story, quite ordinary. When I knew this young man, the girl was in love with him, and there was talk of an imminent wedding. He, too, seemed deeply smitten and happy. I glanced up at the luggage rack, where the parcels brought by the servant trembled with the train's motion, and Laurent's voice echoed in my memory as if it had never ceased. Everything's here, sir. 5 items: sweets, a doll, a drum, a rifle, and goose liver pâté. And then, in my mind, the entire novel unfolded. It resembled countless stories I had read, where a bride or groom marries their betrothed despite physical or financial ruin. After the campaign, this war-maimed officer returned to his fiancée, and she, faithful to her promise, married him. It struck me as beautiful, but banal, just as all sacrifices and resolutions in books or plays seem banal. When reading or hearing of such noble examples, one imagines oneself capable of the same selflessness, of the same exalted gesture. But the next day, when a friend in financial trouble asks for a loan, one's mood turns sour. But then my initial assumption gave way to another, less poetic, yet more grounded in reality. Perhaps they had married before the war, before that dreadful misfortune when a cannonball tore away his legs, and she, grief-stricken but resigned, had to accept fate, surround her husband with care, console him, support him. He had left strong and handsome, and returned legless, a pitiful fragment of a man, condemned to immobility, to fits of impotent rage, and to inevitable corpulence. Was he happy? Or did he suffer? I was seized first by a faint curiosity, then by a growing need, and finally by an irresistible urge to learn his story, at least its main milestones, through which I might glimpse what he could not or would not say aloud. As we spoke, I kept pondering. We exchanged a few mundane phrases, and I glanced at the luggage rack, calculating. Clearly, he has 3 children, sweets for his wife, a doll for his daughter, a drum and a rifle for his sons, and the goose liver pâté for himself. I asked, "Do you have children, sir?" He replied, "No, sir." I felt a sudden embarrassment, as though I had committed a grave indiscretion. "Forgive me," I said. "It came to mind when your servant mentioned the toys. Sometimes one hears without truly listening, and draws conclusions without realizing it." He smiled and said, "No, I'm not even married. Things never went beyond the engagement." I pretended to recall something. "Ah yes. You were engaged when I knew you." "Engaged, if I'm not mistaken, to Mademoiselle de Mundel." "Indeed, sir. You have an excellent memory." I dared to go further. "I believe I also heard that Mademoiselle de Mundel married Monsieur." "Monsieur." He calmly supplied the name. "Monsieur de Flerel." "That's it." "Yes. Now I even remember that it was around then I learned of your injury." I looked into his eyes, and he flushed. His full, soft face, usually flushed from poor circulation, turned an even deeper shade of red. He spoke with fervor, with that sudden fire that overtakes a man defending a cause long lost to his own heart, yet one he still wishes to redeem in the eyes of another. "It is entirely mistaken, sir, to associate Madame de Flerel's name with mine. When I returned from the war, alas, without legs, I would never, under any circumstances, have agreed to let her become my wife. Is that even conceivable? One does not marry to showcase generosity. One marries to live together day after day, hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second. And if a man, like me, is reduced to a shapeless mass, then marrying him means condemning oneself to a torment that ends only with death. Oh, I understand. I admire sacrifice, selflessness if they have limits. But I cannot accept that, for the sake of public admiration, a woman should sacrifice her entire life, all her hopes for happiness, all her joys, all her dream. When I hear my wooden legs and crutches clattering across the floor, when every step echoes like the grinding of a mill, I become so irritable I could strangle my servant. Tell me, is it fair to ask a woman to endure what I myself can barely tolerate? And besides, do you truly find my wooden legs beautiful? He fell silent. What could I say? I saw that he was right. Could I blame her, despise her, or even consider her wrong? No. And yet, the resolution, so reasonable, so ordinary, so realistic, so plausible, did not satisfy my poetic yearning. These remnants of a hero cried out for a noble sacrifice. I missed it, and I felt disappointed. I suddenly asked, "Does Madame de Flerel have children?" "Yes, a girl and 2 boys. I'm bringing them these toys. Her husband and she are very kind to me." The train was climbing the Saint-Germain slope. It passed through tunnels, approached the station, and came to a halt. I wanted to offer my help, to assist the wounded officer in disembarking, but at that moment, 2 hands reached through the open door. "Hello, dear rivals." "Ah. Hello, Flerel." Behind the man stood a beautiful woman, smiling radiantly. Her gloved hands waved in greeting. Beside her, a little girl bounced with joy, and 2 boys stared eagerly at the drum and rifle their father was retrieving from the rack. When the crippled man stepped onto the platform, the children rushed to embrace him. Then they all set off together, and the girl, trustingly, held onto the lacquered bar of his crutch, as she might have held the finger of a beloved friend walking beside her.